what is your opinion on groups that'll be like anti visuals or anti, well, I guess no one's anti sound quality, but people that kind of stick to one side only?
I think it's idiotic. Just being honest, I'm like, why would you? I don't understand why you would sacrifice one for the other. You should have both.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Flip Up Podcast. Today, we are joined by Kevin Sticht, and he has marched Crossman Pulse along with many others.
Guys, I gotta mention this before we even start this episode. Like, check this out. I decided to dress like my wall today, but honestly, it's my lighting. So, and Lucas is also the color orange, which means you guys can tell we're filming at nighttime right now. And it's it's the West Coast recordings, because where Kevin is right now, it's like what 6 p.m.
Yeah, about 6:30.
Yeah, and then here it's
Damn.
like pitch black. So, this is the lighting we have at this time of day. And like I mentioned before, I'm moving out. You're going to see stuff slowly move out of here, but I don't have my usual lamp that gives me some light. So, we got to work with what we've got. But also, I don't know why I've never mentioned this in previous episodes, but Lucas, tilt your camera down a little bit. Luke,
All right, so this is about to be a Flip Up exclusive. For all you audio listeners, you're about to miss out on my amazing setup that I've had for the past how many episodes. Here we go. There's me sitting on a mattress. And my mic is bouncing on a couple textbooks and a White Claw box.
I always laugh at Lucas because he has that same White Claw box just sitting like in the corner. So I decided this episode I'd join him. So I'm on a White Claw box also, but
Quality is going through the roof here. Budget is huge.
Oh my god, I love it. This is amazing.
that's what I'm saying. But yeah, with all that aside, thank you guys for being here. And without further ado, here's Kevin.
Hi. Well, I'm super excited to be on this Flip Up podcast. It was either last episode or a couple episodes ago. Albert and Savannah were on, and they recommended I, fill out the form, put in my application, and here we are. So yeah, just a little bit about me. I've been marching, drumline, and percussion, playing music since middle school. So since I was 12, and I'm currently 27, so that's 15 years. I marched 20 seasons total of like 2 in middle school, 4 indoor, 4 outdoor, like marching band and indoor for high school, and then 5 in world-class DCI and 5 in world-class WGI. So lots of experience. I marched 3 years at 3 years at Mandarins. My first year was actually euphonium. That was the first time I ever auditioned for a cymbal line was at Mandarins, and then got cut from the cymbal line, and they were so supportive that they ended up convincing me to march an instrument I've never played before. So that was really cool. And then the next 2 years were on cymbals, and then I marched Crossman 2014, 2015 on cymbals, and then I marched Pulse Open, which became Pulse Open World, which became POW. Percussion in 2012, that was the year we got bumped, and then I also did Pulse Percussion 2013 through 2016. And for the record, we won world championships in 2014 and 2016, and 14 was really cool because I was made Pulse history by having an undefeated season. So
Damn.
yeah, that was the first time in Pulse history that we had an undefeated season, and RCC made RCC history that year as well.
Well, that is quite the resume. Like, damn.
Yeah, that was just my marching, and then I ended up teaching some cymbal lines. Like I taught Pulse and cymbal line 2017, 2018 when Savannah and Albert were marching. And
Shout out to them.
yeah, shout out to them. And ended up teaching Golden Empire 2018 just as like a Vig Tech. I was going into the 2019 season as the cymbal tech. Some personal stuff came up. I had to step back around April camp, but overall, it's been a long journey of teaching and, I taught at La Quinta High School. They had an incredible cymbal line in 2017 and 2018 when I was teaching there, and before and after. So, yeah, just a lot of different cymbal lines I've either been a part of, either on the member side or the teaching side, or just helping out in whatever way, really. Yeah.
Wow, so you really got a taste of it all. So I guess going into our first topic, we had Savannah and Albert on before, and they were talking about you. So we just want to get another perspective on what it was like being in Pulse and teaching Pulse. So what was that like?
Um, it was a really, really good experience. Yeah, being in, well, it started off a little rough. In Pulse Open 2012, one of our cymbal techs didn't show up to the Pulse Open audition, so I never met him. And the other tech quit about December, January. So we had the techs from Pulse World coming occasionally to help us out, but mostly it was self-taught, besides whoever we could kind of get our hands on to help teach us and clean us. And then obviously Pulse 13 through 16, amazing friends, amazing people in those lines. Yeah, I just can't give enough love to them. It was really interesting. We had David Von Baron as a tech who marched Mystique in 2009 when they really started, that was Requiem, and they first started really doing a lot of offhand in that show. And compared to today's standard, right, it's like they have like a little hammer or bishop or whatever you want to call that one. You know, they have little hole flips. It's like nothing as like it is today, but that's like past history. Besides like when they did the show 7, I think in like 2003, there's like a little bit of offhand if you look in there. But you have to like watch the one like rehearsal video where they're doing a standstill to see it because it's not on the multicam.
Oh my God.
It's just, you know, stuff like that. Like I grew up right around that era where YouTube was like just becoming really big, but like not high quality videos. Just like I took this with my camera phone and it's 2007, so it's terrible quality. But that was super helpful in just like learning and just really bridging the, I guess, bridging the gap between a lot of the East Coast and West Coast, because they were really divided for a really long time. Even now it's kind of more divided. But yeah, Pulse, I ended up having like Dave as a tech who brought the East Coast stuff, and then Alicia as a tech, Alicia Turner, who marched Vanguard. And she obviously had the Vanguard mindset and technique and sound quality coming first. Alicia left in 2013. Akira Torrejos, he started teaching in 2014 at Pulse. He was teaching POW before that. And yeah, I had him for 2014, 2015. He continued on to 2016, where Derek came in, Derek Wu, who marched Vanguard, RCC Academy, and Pulse. He marched Pulse, I think, in like 2009, 2010, 11, and left in 12. But yeah, so I mean, and then I taught with Derek in 2017 and 2018. So again, just a very intermixed techniques and ideas. A lot of like that Vanguard heavy West Coast with a lot of just like, you know, emphasis on sound quality and being clean and hitting hard. But then a lot of emphasis during that time on offhand and doing, you know, interesting splits musically. That was one of the things we actually really pushed at Pulse was 2013, 2012, we had like a full ensemble warm-up called Flow. And so the cymbals were actually a part of the warm-up for that one specific, you know, exercise. And then in 2013, we just wrote cymbal parts to exercises. It was like, oh, we're going to play Krakus by Vanguard, you know, old Vanguard exercise. And so I remember Pritchard, our section leader at the time, just wrote cymbal parts to it, and we just learned them and played along to it. And then in 2014, we came up with an exercise packet, working on like splits and sound quality and making sure that we could actually play harder splits. And we just kept that up till about 2018. I don't know if they continued on with it after I left, but yeah, that was one of the, we really pushed our own musicality in that. We pretty much wrote all of our own splits, changed the splits, occasionally get yelled at because we played stuff that was way overplayed, or they were just like, hey, you can't play that here. It doesn't go well. And we were like, all right, that's fair. We overrode it. We're just trying to have fun. But yeah, it was, I mean, that's kind of the Pulse experience that I had. It was really, really, I feel like it was really different. We focused on a lot of different aspects, a lot of the different aspects of playing, or cymbals, where it's like you focus on the sound quality, you focus on the splits, and you focus on the visuals.
Damn. Well, so I'm gonna need your guys correct me here, but what was the circus show, Lucas? You would know because you had a circus show in high school.
It's 2014.
2014. Okay, so that show, right? I would say that was the one show that I was like, wow, there's like tosses going on here. There's offhand stuff going on here. Like I think that was the first and honestly the biggest show I've seen that really went for it in terms of like the whole offhand concept, or I guess like the more visual package brought to the West Coast. So I guess my question is well, first off, what was it like marching that show? Because one, that show looked really fun. Like I've seen a lot of videos of it. But on top of that, did you guys get like a lot of criticism? Because and like also, would you say that that show maybe sacrificed a lot of sound quality, or would you say like things were just fine?
Sound quality was always number one, and that's the thing. We design visuals based around sound quality. So, like, obviously, if you're not playing a sound, then like you don't have to worry about that. But certain sounds lend themselves to certain visuals lend themselves to certain sounds. So if you want to do like a whole flip where it goes around the wrist, I don't know what you guys call it, but we just call it whole flips. That would lead perfectly into a tap choke in which you can choke it off. Or same thing, you could do that into like a press. If you, in 2012, they had a really cool moment, really subtle facing back floor, and the line looked over their shoulder, but they would catch it in a hammer, drop it, and then let it go and play a sizz. So it wasn't a harsh attack, but it had that very pure sizz sound. And in fact, you used the left hand to actually hold and adjust how much sound you were getting out of it because the right hand was just dropping down. It was just basically just letting it fall. And same things like following through with a crash like that. You have to drop it a little bit, things like that. But it was always, how can we play this sound using like an offhand technique, offhand flip, any of those things, but still get the high quality sound out of that. And a lot of the times what it lends itself to is doing whatever visual into something where it reloads back into your hand. And so you're just basically at your standard playing, standard playing position. In like Pulse 2017, there was like a bucket into like a egg beater thing into like reloading back into your hand to load back here so you could just play a flat crash. And that was all just based upon like, how does this work? How can we make this work? So I would definitely say we didn't there was never a sacrifice of sound quality for visuals. If anything, we would sacrifice doing a cool visual if we couldn't do it in time with good quality. We would just change the visual. It would be like, well, we can just change that. But the music was written in a way where it's like, well, we need a crash here, we need that sound here, we need the sizz here, whatever sound we needed to play. It was always like, well, we have to play that. That's in the ink. If we wanted to add anything more, we could see if we would get away with it a little bit, but a lot of it was just kind of like music comes first, because for me, I'm a musician, right? Like, and it's a music-based activity. It's always been like marching music's major league, and there's this idea of like, for DCI, right? But like, there's this idea of like visual and music, and then like GE, which is music and visual. It's like, at the end of the day, I feel like there are musicians on a field, musicians on a floor, and that music should come first. And if you have to give up a visual in order to play correctly and use a correct technique to get the best sound, that's probably the number one number one factor of it. I would prioritize that sound over visual.
Yeah, and earlier before we actually started recording, you mentioned that you had a concert background. So how would you say that has kind of played into your sound quality with cymbals, marching cymbals?
I've loved music for 15 years now. I ended up studying it in college. So after 6 years of doing music and assuming I was going to go into like a science major, I ended up being a classical percussion orchestral major, music performance major. And so, I went to Cal State Fullerton. I got my bachelor's in percussion performance. And one of the things my professor, my private teacher always talked about was, hey, if you have strong fundamentals and good sound quality, you can play anything. And so our emphasis was always on getting the best sound. He was like, he's a he's just a crazy person of just, he ended up being like a timpanist. He recorded parts for, in LA for Hollywood soundtracks and movies, and played in professional orchestras on timpani and French horn, which those two instruments
Oh,
are completely different. And he was just a professional on both. And it was incredible. So he was just like, his emphasis was huge on timpani, which is all about just getting the right technique, getting very legato and all of this. And so I really focused on getting the best possible sound quality out of, either my sticks, mallets, whatever I'm hitting. And that carried over to cymbals, which um, I did have a tech in Mandarin's 2012. It was Dave. I asked him, I was like, hey, how do I play a good crash? And he was like, well, you're a cymbal player, you should know. And that's not the type of information you should be getting from a tech. If a tech ever tells you that, they're wrong. That's not a good tech. And this was my second season on cymbals. My first was at Pulse Open, which turned into POW, which is like, yeah, we didn't have techs there. Dave, you were there. You came occasionally and taught us. And this is, now I'm here. Because I played, I popped a crash or something, and I didn't know. I didn't have a lot of experience. So I was genuinely asking him, like, how do you get a good crash out of cymbals? And in that moment, I realized, I was like, there's a lot of, unfortunately, there's a lot of bad techs. There's a lot of good techs out there. There's some bad techs out there. And it's up to the tech to really break down technique and explain it and understand. If a student doesn't understand, that's the tech needs to find a way to be able to explain the concept or technique or whatever it is that, if you're playing a bad crash, like, how do you get a good crash? Well, you got to think about contact points. You have to think about the flam. You have to think about the width. You have to think about the displacement, blah, blah, blah. There's a lot that goes into it. But, I realized in that moment I really did want to understand and be better and know exactly how to get a good crash. And for myself, that's just what I've been doing. It's just, well, how can I get a good crash consistently every single time, regardless of any external factors that are out there? Because really, at the end of the day, it's how fast are they coming at each other? What's the displacement? What's the angle of the crash? All of those affect the volume. You have to think about all the different variables, isolate, break them down, and then you can hit them together however you want and still get a good crash, whether you're holding them or not. So I think that was a really large part. Whenever we would do like an offhand crash, we had to know the exact way to hit it, and we would just practice, like, all right, let's practice a whole flip into a crash. How does that feel? Making sure that's consistent. I know with your guys' interview with Jack Worth, he was talking about, like, yeah, we just spend a whole block on just technique, sound, just like flat crashes. And I'm like, yep, we've done that so many times, or just breaking down the individual sounds of like a press or a sizz or a sizzuk or a tap choke, or, whatever you want to call the different sounds, a zing, making sure that the, not only do the techs know, but the members who are actually marching. Like, from a teaching standpoint, it didn't matter what I knew. It didn't matter how much I had done. It mattered the members who were marching in the show. They have to know the technique and be able to explain it back to you. That's the real
yeah.
demonstration of somebody knowing a technique. You teach it to them, then they teach it to you.
I mean,
And go for it.
I was going to say, I mean, that goes along with the philosophy of, I think the biggest thing I learned in Colts 2019 and then, Mason 2020 is that, like, I feel like, especially to be a good member, right? Like, you need to be able to self correct yourself. And that goes off of what you're saying. Like, like the tech needs to have the knowledge of teach you how this works. And then as a member, you need to be able to self correct yourself and be sure to assess yourself to the point where you don't need the feedback to know exactly what you're doing wrong, because you should know what you're doing exactly.
There was a moment in Pulse 2013. It's at the end of the ballad. It's about 6.5 minutes in or something. I don't remember. But the cymbals are in the middle of these, like, two concentric circles, and the cymbal, the four other cymbals make a third concentric circle around me in the center. And the original idea was, we all go up. It was like this moment where the battery's raising their hands and they push down. And so we were going to go up and do like some sort of flip and then catch it down into like a triangle pose on our knees and come down. That was like supposed to be the moment. It evolved into us all trying to throw our cymbals up in the air and catch
Oh
them
my
at the
God.
same time, which then was like, hey, that's not all 5 of you can do it. Kevin, you're in the center. You do it. And so in that moment, I was singled out to have a large visual moment in that, like, it was like, hey, we've never thrown cymbals. We don't know how to throw cymbals. This wasn't a technique that was developed. It was, hey, this might be cool. Let's try it out. And we tried it, and we dropped it on a hardwood gym floor multiple times before they were like, this is cut. All right, Kevin, you try it. You seem to be pretty consistent. And then they were just like, yeah, can you go higher? Can you go higher? Can you do more? And in that moment, my text could not give me any advice. John Mapes couldn't even give me advice, because he was like, I don't know, you're throwing it up and throwing it down. You need to catch it at this time. And it was the hardest thing because there was no click track. It was a ritardando that slowed down really fast. And so I just had to know, like, this is the exact amount of time I have to throw it up this high. It has to rotate this many times, and I have to put my hand down and catch it.
Just gotta feel it.
And it, while kneeling, all at the right time. And I had a cymbal in my left hand, so there was no, like, fudge option. You just had to nail it.
Lucas, do you remember in 2019? So we had this old before our section, I guess you could say, got cut. Wasn't cut because of this. It's just show design reasons. But Lucas, do you remember when we were on top of the monkey bars, and I don't remember who was throwing it to us, and we had to jump off the monkey bars and catch it in midair?
Oh my God, that hurt my legs so much.
Oh, God, that sounds absolutely awful.
Yeah, but I mean, going off of what you were saying about like just like dropping cymbals, also, like, we we drop so much. Like, that's how we just learned, the skills of juggling. And I mean, we don't really toss, but like juggling is definitely the big thing on the East Coast. Like, I mentioned this in a previous podcast episode, but I guess for anyone who's questioned the difference between juggling and tossing, juggling, the cymbals in contact, but it's like completely off the strap. Tossing, the cymbals completely out of contact with your hand. So that's basically the difference between the two.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm really surprised that you, first of all, as a West Coast line, they were encouraging you to throw your cymbals, because when Albert and Savannah were on, they were like, oh, we dropped our cymbals once and we never did it again. Like, don't ever do that to the cymbals. But I guess it really depends. Like, what cymbals did you use? Did you have the orchestral cymbals?
Yeah, we had classic orchestral, medium, 19 inches.
You're just like, yeah, hell with it, throw 'em.
Yeah, they were like, so the nice part about being in like a world-class line, what we ended up having 2 pairs of cymbals, like 2 sets of cymbals. We'd have a show pair and a practice pair. We would use the practice pair for practice. We'd beat them up, we'd drop them, and a lot of the times when we were practicing tossing, I know my very first time, I was like in my room, right above my bed, like, it's not gonna fall far, and if it falls, it'll land on my bed nice and soft. And then eventually I like moved outside into the grass, and we did a lot of like sectionals. Even Albert and Savannah talked about this, where it's like, yeah, we would just meet up once a week for sectionals, and that's been a tradition since at least 2012, that we just every week And maybe not everybody could make it, but it was really important because that's how we would work. That's how we would get the extra hours to learn the offhand and get the technique and the touch and the feeling of the weight, the weight of the cymbal moving around your wrist and all that. That's when we would learn that. Same thing with tossing. We would work on tossing. Same thing with splits. We would use that time to work on pretty much anything that we needed to if we wanted to do anything cool. It was like, this is your time to get the reps. And so we would be in parks in like sandboxes, right? Or like grass and just like chucking cymbals in the dark and hoping you're catching it and it's not going to come down on your head or something. So yeah, I mean, we definitely dropped cymbals, but the nice part is we would have a show pair, we would polish them, we'd keep them really, really nice. We would only use them for like show days unless we were like trying to break them in or something, but that was pretty much it. And it was just like, that's the nice pair, don't drop these. You've been practicing on your practice pair. It's slightly different, so you got to get a couple reps in to make sure you know what the feeling is, but overall, it's the same cymbal, so it will feel and look the same.
Yeah, and I feel like now for us, like on the East Coast side, like anytime we're doing juggling, oh my God, like I would say when I started off, my accuracy was like, I mean, I feel like all of us start with like a 1 out of 10. But like now if I were to do something or something that I've done over and over, it's like it's almost drilled naturally. Like if I were to do a contact juggle, like a basic, the you know what I'm talking about, Lucas, but the one going like this, like
Yeah, just like wrapping around the hand.
yeah, it's impossible for me to drop. I've done it too many times. Like I just know the feeling so well. But then you gradually work higher. Grand gasp. I'm at the point now. I never drop. But then we're talking about something like I say that, and then I'm gonna pick up my cymbals and just drop it.
Also, no one's gonna know, or half the people aren't gonna know what a grand gasp is.
No idea. Not a clue.
I really want to show right now, but that means I have to like turn my camera, and my room's a goddamn mess right now. Maybe I can clip this on Instagram or something if we manage to archive this.
Just cut it in post, We'll just like in post, just insert the clip. It'll be like,
yeah, just like a scene of Jaden outside.
Yeah, no. It's gonna be a scene inside. I'm gonna be over my bed.
Like, he's gonna drop. He's gonna drop it.
It's got to be first take. It's whatever first take is. It's got to be the first rep.
All right, I'll do that. I'll do whatever the first rep is. But yeah, no, actually, I'm gonna do it. So you guys will have context on that. It's actually gonna go right here, and I'm gonna clap so I know where to put it. All right, so I just saw in the footage of the podcast that I said I would do a grand gasp first repper. So here we go. It's currently early in the morning, getting ready to go on the flight, but here we go. All right, it's going right there. Whatever that
Incredible,
means.
Dude. I can't believe that.
Dude, that was
so
insane.
Cool.
Wow. Audio listeners missing out.
I can't believe it.
Oh, Lucas.
Right until he dropped, though. That was sad.
Oh, Lucas, shut up. You've seen it several times.
Not like that, though.
Oh.
Anyway, continue with your point.
Oh, me. I was like, yeah, I always tend to ramble and forget my points, but a lot of it is just, nope, there's that point, and it is gone.
What was I even talking about?
We were just talking about visuals. I just like cymbals. I get excited and I start talking about it. I'm like, oh, what about this and that?
There is so much to say, honestly. But we do have a good topic that I'm pretty excited to talk about. So as someone who has experienced both kind of the visual aspect and the sound quality aspect, you've kind of fused it together. What is your opinion on groups that'll be like anti visuals or I guess no one's anti sound quality, but people that kind of stick to one side only?
I think it's idiotic. Just being honest. I'm like, why would you? I don't understand why you would sacrifice one for the other. You should have both. And just specifically for me, right, I know I'm West Coast, but I always think about like judges' tapes. I listen to the perk tapes sometimes. The staff would play it, or when I was on staff, I'd always listen to the perk tapes. And the only time the cymbals ever really get called out on a perk tape is for when they're playing. Like, maybe the judge will have like a throwaway like, oh, nice visual there. But like, I feel like we're only judged when we play sounds, and that's why my big emphasis for at least for perk tapes was like, well, I want to make sure that we have good sounds, so we get compliments on that. Uh, I've never really heard like a field vis judge talk about like, oh man, cymbals, that visual was so cool. But I always felt the visuals were more for the performers than anything, right? You can use the visuals to help draw attention to very specific moments. And that's something we did in Pulse 2016. We had a ripple toss back to the door. And again, it was one of those moments, right? Like, we all threw it over our heads, did a 180, had to catch at the angle, and in sequential order, because the way the music was, it was emphasizing like every half note. And I was at the end of the ripple. I had to throw it a little bit higher, make it a little bit bigger because it's the end of
Oh,
the ripple.
I remember that.
Yeah, I do
And
too.
you have to catch it right when Ricky, I don't Rick, went up to the door and like smashed on it because he was an orphan who got turned away from these parents that were looking for It was an orphan show. We were all orphans looking for our parents, and it was really like weird. The brothers, we're
Hey,
all family.
That was a great
here.
show.
Yeah,
You won.
I love the music. The music for that show was really good.
I love
Cast
that.
away by her mothers.
I
Forgotten
love
by
that
her.
cymbal feature. That was by far one of my favorite features because it was just like 30 seconds of just cymbals and like mostly metallic front ensemble sounds.
You
And
guys were like playing on the beds too.
yeah, we got to play on the beds. It was like doom ta dum bum sing ta 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 ta, something like that. It was to like It's a Hard Knock Life from Annie.
Wait. Hold up. Pause here. I just realized we made it through like however long we are into this without speaking and saying the fact that you are right now in front of a drum set.
Oh yeah, I am in front of a drum set. So I
You could
have
play.
this.
You could play those splits right now, possibly.
Let's see here. So
Dude, that's
here's my
perfect timing.
Here's my setup. Whoa, hey, what happened? Lighting issue. It's always when you want it, right?
But real quick, I'm just gonna make this point real quick, because we were talking about like judges tape and stuff like that. From our perspective, though, I feel like unless it's like a cymbal feature and you're just like playing splits or crashes, I feel like I only really get comments on the visual aspects of things, and that's why I admire Pulse, because like I feel like Pulse is notorious for getting really good or getting good things called out about them in terms of their visual, like their sound quality aspects, and like like GMU, for example, really notorious for utilizing their cymbal line in a visual standpoint. Like especially at George Mason, like the strongest point I'd say for the cymbal line, honestly, is the performance and just how flexible our wrists are. Dude, our wrists are not fucking real just because of just flipping out and stuff like
I
that.
Yeah, and
feel
all the
that.
weird like jumping around and breakdancing that they made us do.
Yeah, I also just realized I dropped the bomb. I'm gonna have to bleep that out. Oh yeah, okay. So, anyways, let's see this.
All right.
Ooh.
That's a piano. Wrong
It
patch.
worked.
I kind of fit in there.
There's the major.
Yeah, major triad.
Hey.
Never expected that on the podcast.
Dang, that was game changer. You guys heard it here live for the very first time. We were even talking about this, Lucas and I were like, yeah, we should just like actually like do visuals and like play on the podcast. But then I was like, not really much true.
Yeah, we got our stuff sitting on top of cardboard boxes here.
Dude, cardboard
that's-
white claws, what do you mean?
Yeah. Meanwhile, Kevin's got the whole setup with the multiple camera angles. This is amazing.
Thank you. Yeah. So I use this setup for streaming on Twitch basically, and for teaching like drums and piano. So I also do like a lot of just teaching, and obviously over the course of the pandemic, it's been all virtual. So I've really had to figure out how to get this set up, and I've gone through so many different iterations. This has been like, most recent was December when I got this new kit. I ended up upgrading from like an Alesis DM6 to a Roland TD11 because I got like a, used for like $750, $775 off Facebook Marketplace, which they normally go for like $1,200, $1,400. So I'll take it.
Dang.
Hell yeah, that sounds awesome. But with that, guys, that is the end of the episode. Honestly, great way to honestly go out with a bang, literally. So
Yeah, playing some sick notes there.
yeah. But all right.
Round of applause for you guys. Beautiful, beautiful.
Okay.
The crowd goes wild.
All of our fans out there, all of our subscribers.
All right, so we almost revealed this earlier before we even started this call, but now we get to ask it. So Kevin, if there's one thing you'd like to say to the cymbal community, what would that thing be?
One thing. It's hard. I have a lot of things to say to the cymbal community. Mostly, can I say two? Can I just say this? Is that all right? One's like, take care of your body.
It'll be like a run-on one.
Basically,
like,
yeah.
blah, 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 and
Yeah, put an "and" in there.
yeah.
Like, take care of your body. If your body is hurting, if you're getting like bruised and broken and like things are sore, take a break, and that's not healthy. Like, your body comes first, and somebody who's marched 20 seasons and 5 years of that on like marching cymbals of 19s and 20s of like either mediums or medium lights or medium heavies, like, trust that you need to listen to your body and like breathe, but also just take care of each other. Be super loving and caring. Be there for each other, because the cymbal community, especially, what I've seen either in person, online, anything like that, they're extremely loving. They're extremely caring. We all care about each other. We respect one another. We can have our differences, East Coast, West Coast, right? It's always a fun little battle. But at the end of the day, we're all cymbal players, and we all need to take care of each other.
I love asking this final question. Literally every single person. We're still on the
So
record.
many good ones.
No one has repeated the, what would you call it, final statement? Yeah, final statement. No one has repeated. But the funniest one, audition at Bush.
Hey, we'll give Molly another chance sometime. Episode 200, she'll get her second shot. But every single one is so like new and original. So we always hearing something great. The things that you don't think about, but you should.
So real quick before we sign off, Kevin, if you'd like to plug your socials.
Absolutely. I just want to say, first off, thank you to Zildjian, Vic Firth, and Mike Balter. I am a sponsored artist by them. I've played Zildjian my entire time in drum corps and WGI. Teaching, I use Zildjian, and even like my own personal playing, I use Zildjian. So definitely shout out to them, and Brian Stockard, who has been an amazing contact, amazing friend, and just a good person. So shout out to everyone on the Zildjian and Vic Firth team, as well as I have socials. So you can follow me. Most of it is like Sticht Percussion, STICHT Percussion. Hopefully you know how to spell that word. And yeah, I stream on Twitch. You can find my schedule up there, twitch.tv/Sticht Percussion. Instagram, it's Sticht Percussion. Facebook, YouTube, all that jazz. You can follow me on all those. So yeah, and for Twitch, I do a lot of like drum set, a little bit of piano, and just basically still pursuing music. Even after I aged out, I remembered when I graduated and aged out all in the same year, all in 2015, 2016, And then I was like, wow, okay, well, here we go. Everything's changed. I didn't stop playing music. I pursued music as a career, and even people who don't, I still love seeing those people I was in the activity still pursuing music in some way or another, either teaching or playing. So, yeah, you can find all those things there. Those are the socials, and thank you to my sponsors.
Hell yeah. I mean, the reason why I was like, plug your socials is one, it's cool, doing Twitch streaming. Like I've tried that once, and honestly, it's really cool. And honestly, someone's got to play cymbals on it now. But the other reason, Zildjian, if you're watching this, please sponsor us.
It's gonna take a lot for us to get that.
Yeah. So, anyways, thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of the Flip Up Podcast. We'll catch you guys in next week's episode. I said that really weird. I was like, what's it?
Keeping that one in.